Hey, you're about to watch a message from our latest Dig Deep Bible study at Fort City Church. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, if you want to stay connected with all things DRJG, visit me at drjackiegreene.com. That's all the latest and greatest. I want to make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications anytime we go live with brand new content. I love you. I pray that you share this message if it transformed your life. See you soon. I'm so excited about tonight. I want you to do me a favor. I'm pretty sure most of y'all got y'all phones nearby. I want y'all to just look at your phone real quick. Look at the back of it. Some of y'all got cases on your phone. Some of them are square. Y'all know we don't got a little fancy and we got square cases now. My sister Blair made me get a square case, just saying. But I want you to recognize this idea that leadership touches everything. The case you have on the back of your phone or the one that you don't have happens because of influence. You got that case. I got my case because my sister had a case and I thought it was dope. And her impact, her influence led me to make a decision. Look at your jean jacket. I see Java got on a jean jacket. I got on me a little vest. Somebody caused you to make the choice of what you wear in your style. Anybody gonna be real in the room? Like, I wear these heels because I saw somebody else do it. I like that thing because somebody had influence over the way I see myself, what I believe is nice, what I believe is cool. And it doesn't just impact stuff like your phone and how you dress. My brother and I were talking the other day, and I was saying, Norman, do you have Dove soap in your house, or do y'all use cocoa butter? Like, do you ever recognize that you end up getting the same brands of stuff that your parents got? You don't know how much impact your family have on you. Like, I bathed with that and lotion with that. Man, Travis' mama, she believed CarMax can heal anything. And it show up everywhere. Her daughters wear shades on their head because she wears shades on her head. We don't recognize how influential and how much small little things, even when you don't say a word. You know how sometimes, like, if you would have came in tonight and nobody was standing up, everybody would sit down. The choice to stand or sit is dictated by other people's choices. Other people lead and dictate the environments that we walk into. If people on your job, they are on time, you'll be on time. If people on your job are later, they cut corners. Somehow, even if you had integrity, your integrity starts to slip by what you allow to lead and influence you. I got any witnesses in the room? Like, they be leaving out a little bit early, so I'm going to tip out too. Influence is there whether it's good or bad. And so the reality is what is leadership? Leadership is any person is a leader if someone chooses to follow them. It's a person of influence. And so tonight, my heart beats for this reality. I don't want us to minimize the weight of leadership. And not just to recognize, because we all know that there are leaders, but do I have any witnesses in the room that would say that there's a difference between a leader and a good leader? Yes. Anybody been led down the wrong road? Like, how did I get there? Why did I listen to you? Relationship, jobs, family members. We find ourselves down wrong roads. And we be like, God, man, that kept me longer than I wanted to be kept, took me further than I ever expected to go. And tonight, God is asking us not just to evaluate how we are being led, but also how we lead. Yes. Can we just take a minute to jump into and dive into what it looks like to lead well? Not just lead. God is not one of those God that he's satisfied with just doing a thing. He wants us to do everything with excellence and do it well. And so I was talking to God, and I think one thing that you should always do when you're wanting to become better at anything is look at somebody that's doing it the way you want to do it. Sometimes we listen to people tell us stuff that we don't want to live because of what they're living. I'll give you an example. They ain't got no money. None. They bank account in the red. But they got all the advice about how you're supposed to invest, and they tell you what jobs you're supposed to have, and you listen. Tonight, I want us to really evaluate who is leading us and how we're leading. And as I look at the creme de la creme, numero uno on the list, the expert on leadership, which is Jesus Christ himself. I just started watching his life, y'all. Like, there is no one greater, not one beside him, no one like him. He is undisputed, undefeated. He can't be rivaled. He's the greatest to ever live. Mike, I got a witness in the room. He's the greatest to ever do it. He accomplished more in 3 years than many of us accomplished in 80. He healed, raised the dead. My God, Jesus, what didn't you do, right? He does tell us greater work shall we do, though. That's all I'm saying. So we're going to have to get this whole thing under wraps about what does it take to be a good leader? Not just a leader. What does it take to lead great? God uncovered something for me. And he said this little, I don't know, you call it a little word. I don't know. It was a little segment he said to me. And I was like, oh, God, that was heavy. He said, Jackie, the greatest leaders are the greatest followers. And we like, whoa, I was like, whoa, God, man. When I looked up the definition of a leader and a follower, Google said that a follower is in opposition to a leader. They are not the same. But when I look at Jesus' life and what the kingdom says about leadership, I want to submit that you cannot be a great leader unless you are an effective follower. If we take a moment tonight to study what I call a great leader, we will have to pause to look at the leader that follows. That's the title of our message tonight. And I want us to take a little bit of time to just really dig into this reality of what does it mean for the greatest leader to be the leader that follows. Can we just bring that to life a little bit tonight? Y'all know I like demonstrations. Come on, demonstrators. Y'all step on out here. Let's do this. Amen, amen. Y'all get your anticipation. Yeah, we going somewhere. I'm going to tell y'all the same message over and over a lot of different ways. Some people are visual, so we're going to do this visually. Amen? So tonight, I told you that a leader is someone whom people follow. We got two leaders. You see somebody behind them? Y'all got a few followers on social media. You're a leader. Cool? I also said that there's a difference between a leader and a great leader. Amen? I got some instructions for these leaders, just like God has instruction for us. There's a difference between how a leader and a good leader receives instruction and how they go about fulfilling the instruction they heard. Can we watch it happen? Y'all ready? So, leaders, I want you all to lead the people behind you right to the edge. Y'all don't get scared. We ain't gonna fall out here. Amen? I want you to lead them to the edge. Let's start moving. What you don't recognize as you receive instruction is, as you're moving, there's some things that sometimes automatically show up out of the way. You weren't expecting it. You were on your journey. You were moving. Do I got any witnesses? Like, Lord, I was headed somewhere. I wasn't expected to run into opposition. I'm trying to get around this thing, and I'm saying, Keisha, all you got to do, I know the name of this giant right here that's opposing you. All you got to do is bow down and pray a little bit. That giant will move. Janiyah, just pray. Just fast a little bit. The giant will move, Janiyah. The giant will move. And as Keisha gets up from prayer, because she didn't just hear instruction, she kept hearing and kept seeing to be led. Janiyah, I was speaking to her too. I told her too, but she decided to try to lead blindly. As you can see, one great leader ends up fulfilling exactly what she was called to do. There's another one over here. She's a good person. I'm not calling you not good, but my question is, why are you trying to lead like this? Why do you lead blindly where you got blindfolds on and the people around you, now they wondering? They don't know the direction they supposed to go. They about to hit stuff. They are in danger. They are dealing with burnout because they using all their energy to get around something they could have used their ears to move around. Why do we lead blindly? The greater leader is the leader that leads by following. She heard my voice. She kept listening. She didn't end up leading with delay. You know, have you ever followed somebody that wasn't listening to navigation and they just feeling their way through? Girl, stop and ask somebody where you going. We done hit enough U-turns. We've been delayed long enough. But many times, even if you start out without the blindfold and the micro, what do you call those? Headphones on, you end up putting them on, deciding, I know the way. I heard what God told me to do. I'm just going to step out there and do it. He said, I don't want you to just listen to the instructions. Listen to the instructor. Don't just start hearing me. Stay hearing me. What you see is delay happen. Y'all are good demonstrators. Amen. Y'all can go. And it's funny, right? And we talk about it, and you see Janiyah never made it to the edge, which means that anybody, her children, her co-worker, the person that she's neighbors with, they'll never reach their destination either because they were looking at her to lead the way. My question is, which leader are you? Are you the one still wondering and causing other people to have setbacks and delays because you won't take the blindfold off? Could it be that God stepped in here today to remove our blindfolds and to take our headphones off? You've been moving to the beat of your own drum long enough. You've been trying to do it in your own strength and navigate in your own way long enough. And tonight, God is saying the greatest leader is the leader that follows. My question is, are you brave enough to do it a new way? Are you brave enough to not just hear him in the beginning, but all the while in the middle, even before you get to the end, that you don't have to wear yourself out before you decide, this ain't working. Your children don't have to fall under the weight of your decision to lead blindly. And what I recognize is many people are following people on social media that don't know where they're going. They social media look great, but they as blind Bartimaeus. You hear me? Like they blind, they don't know where they're going, and you are blindly following them. My challenge to you is not to just become the great leader that takes the blindfolds off, but be sure that you're not following somebody that's blindly leading you. God brought this text to life for me, and I was blown away at how I didn't even recognize what God was doing. He told me that we were going to be looking at a text in Luke 5. And I've actually preached a text before, never really looked at it from the aspect of leadership. And I was blown away at all the different principles that God showed me through this text in Luke 5. I got to the text, and the first thing at the very beginning, it says, the first disciples. I was blown away that he's telling me that the greatest leaders are greatest followers. He brings me to a text that shows a picture of when he calls his first disciple, which is a follower of Jesus. He helps us understand, I'm going to uncover this picture where you're able to see that I can lead you better than you can lead yourself. And even after you made an attempt to do it on your own, if you allow me to add a little super on top of your natural, you will go way further faster. Anybody want to go further, faster? That you're sick of delays, you're sick of trying to do it in your own strength? Like, I done been burnt out enough, right? So we're going to walk this text quickly. I'm going to show you 3 things that great leaders all exemplify. It's not going to be rocket science. It's been an open book test. The first thing that we see when we open this text, it says in verse 1 and 2, one day as Jesus was preaching on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, great crowds pressed in on him to listen to the word of God. Verse 2 says, he noticed 2 empty boats at the water's edge, for the fishermen had left them and were washing their nets. The first thing that I want you to recognize about every great leader is great leaders can see. We just saw that great leaders can see, but I want you to look at this text as it opens by saying one day. We at 501 Clemson Road. It's just a random Friday. We are just washing clothes at our house and mothering our children. We're just on an ordinary day in our job. We're just at the grocery store picking up a little groceries. What I want you to recognize is if you want to go from just being a leader to a great leaders see opportunity in the ordinary one day. So many people are missing opportunities to become greater leaders because they're looking for the Mount of Transfiguration. They're looking for communion. They're looking for this platform. But it's just in the ordinary that God will sometimes come near you and ask you to lead. I was in my house the other day and I had some siblings over and I could just sense that God was doing something. See, what I want you to recognize is that before you're called to the nations, you're called to your cousin, your children, the random cashier. So many times we feel like it got to be grandiose. It got to be, lights and cameras for us to recognize that there are moments when your husband might come home from work and sit down beside you. And God steps on your boat and asks you for the opportunity to see that he's in need. My question is, do you just pass that by, or do you just see that as something that's ordinary? Or do you recognize that this too is an opportunity to lead? That he didn't by happenstance match you with that person. He didn't just happen to have you bump into that cashier that's barely keeping her eyes open and they're bloodshot red. He sent you on assignment even tonight. Maybe you are here just for the person on the road with you. Maybe like Nana, you were here to refute the enemy's voice against your pastor. See, we don't talk about that. We as great leaders have to have the ability to see, even in ordinary moments, we have been called by God. When he comes close, even on a regular Friday, he has intention and purpose for us to fulfill. And if we are able to open our eyes and take the blindfold off to see, we will be able to fulfill exactly what he wants us to fulfill, even in an ordinary moment. Great leaders are able to see, not just see ordinary moments being moments of opportunity, but we're able to see and know who and what God is choosing to use. We see that in this passage, Jesus walks up on Simon Peter's boat that is on the shoreline, and there are two boats there. I wonder why he didn't get in James and John's boat. I wonder why it was Simon Peter's boat that he chose. And sometimes we have to have eyes to see that it's you that he chose. We have to settle that, yeah, there were other vessels, there were other options. They might have even seemed more qualified, but Keisha, he chose you. We have to settle this reality that he is not a God of mistake. He's too big for error. He's a God of intention. And if he stepped on your boat, he stepped on your boat for a reason. If he gave you that assignment, why do you keep looking to the left and the right talking about James and John's boat? Simon, it is you he's calling. Can you see that he has chosen you? Not only did he make it a choice for you to settle this reality, because I was on the phone with my pastor, Jess. It was Wednesday. And I was telling him, I said, it seems like over and over again, God will keep calling my name and I'll encourage these women, live in freedom, live in boldness. But there's this uncomfortability that happens when God is calling me forward to lead. He said, that's interesting. And that feeling may never go away, Pastor Jackie. It might never go away, but the reality is, have you ever took a little time to dig deep to find out who planted those seeds in your heart? Like, who told you that you weren't one that was chosen to lead free women? Who told you that you were ill-equipped and ill-qualified? Who told you that you were unnecessary? This is the stuff he tells us, right? He says it don't matter if we show up. He says that it doesn't matter what choice we made. They're not watching you. Oh, it's 12 other people that could do that. True or false? This is what he tells us. And my pastor said something to me. It's Matthew 15 and 13. And I want y'all to write this scripture down because it was something that helped me. He said, any plant that's not planted by our heavenly fathers must be pulled up from the root. If there's anything that poisons your heart to believe that when Jesus steps on your boat, you're ill-equipped and not qualified to do it, you have to be willing to see that's not from your father and pull it up from the root. We cannot continue to contend with this mixed fruit of, God, I believe you on Monday, but then on Tuesday, I'm not sure. And the reality that I believe is that when we are able to uproot it, we create greater soil for God to be able to do more. And as a result, we become greater leaders. We recognize that it was God's choosing, and we don't mix those two realities. But God doesn't just let us see who he chose. He allows us to see the area he wanted to show up in, the area that was chosen. And what I recognize, and I think we sometimes get mad about this, Blair, he says, and God didn't have to be this specific, he does everything on purpose. He says that there were 2 empty boats. Like, we sometimes get upset like, God, why do you have to call my boat insecure? Why do you have to call my boat inadequate? Why am I dealing with identity issues? Like, why do you have to desire to step into the place where I've been fought so hard? Why do you have to use that? You're talking about the molestation. You're talking about the abortion. Like, God, you want me to talk about that? So many times we are not willing for God to not just choose us, but to choose the area that he wants to use and allow us to lead. Can I tell you this? It wasn't in my strong place that God chose to use me. It was in the area where I felt inadequate, I felt ill-equipped, that he stepped right in and he said, you're going to use that. Because there's some more people out there that feel just like you. The areas I was fought hard, my identity, my health. He came hard after my ability to live to fulfill God's call. He fought me, he fought my health when I was trying to birth my very first child. It's been in those areas that songs like Made a Way. It was the greatest areas I was fought that was the greatest area of impact, the greatest area of influence. He will sometimes use the area that you are not comfortable with, but you have to make a choice tonight. Do you want to be a leader or a great leader? Do you want to be able to see that he's choosing this area to come through, or do you want to decide that you're master and savior and Lord and only allow certain areas to be used? I'll tell you this, if you make the choice for your will, it'll always be limited. If you make the choice for him only to come through your will, it will always be limited. He doesn't put his super on top of your will. John 6:38 says that Jesus came to do the will of his Father who sent him. And if we're looking at the greatest leader, he allowed God to show up in whatever area he wanted to. Yes, blameless, but he was submitted. He was surrendered. And it wasn't about his reputation, because many times shame is attached to the pride that still exists. There are areas in our lives that we don't want anybody to know about. And Revelation talks about that we overcome him. That's the adversary. That's the devil. By the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. My question is, will I have some women tonight that can see that the area that you've been hiding is the one that God wants to step into? His strength is not made perfect in your strength. It's in the void. It's in the place that is desperate, the place where nothing is. He doesn't try to fill a place that's already filled. He will step into the place where he knows that he will get the glory. Because it had to be him. There's no way I could be doing this if God had not stepped into that broken, empty, desperate place. My question tonight is, will there be any women that recognize that the molestation, the bankruptcy, the humiliation is the area that God sees and says, yep, right there. That's where I'm stepping in. Great leaders are leaders that see. He goes on into verse 3 and he says this. He says, stepping into one of the boats, Jesus asked Simon, its owner, to push it out into the water. So he sat in the boat and taught the crowds from there. When he had finished speaking, he said, Simon, now go out where it is deeper and let down your nets to catch some fish. Verse 5 says this, Master, Simon said, we worked hard all last night and didn't catch a thing. But if you say so, I'll let my net down. And this time, their nets were so full of fish that they began to tear. Great leaders don't just see, they hear. Great leaders don't just see, they hear. We see in verse 3 through 5, or verse 3 through 6, where God said and he responded, where God was calling him or God asked. And I think that was the first thing, and it's not my major point about our ability to hear as leaders, but the first thing that you see is he asked Simon. So many times we believe that God is going to overwhelm us and force us to do stuff. He is a gentleman that will allow you to partner with his will to do what he desires to do. He won't cause you. He won't overwhelm you. He asked Simon. He said, Simon, will you push this boat out into the water? I wonder, do you have the ability to hear what God is asking for tonight? Do you even know what he's asking you? Or do you, like it was Janiyah, have headphones on and you're just marching to the beat of your own drum? You don't know what's going on around you. You in church. But you don't know what Jesus is saying to you. You don't know what he's asking you for. And I love this. He didn't just say that he asked Simon. He says he asked Simon, the owner. Not my point either, but listen to this. Have you listened in the previous season to be an owner in the next so God will have something to step into? He had something to work with. So many times we were so busy trying to get the next that we weren't fulfilling the thing we were supposed to manage and own in the last season. So we show up to the next season with God not having anything to use. Do I have any women willing to not just be called Jackie the one that's just out here being entertained, but are you managing? Or are you stewarding anything that God can put a super on top of? Simon was an owner. He recognized that there was responsibility on his part. He was asked by the Lord to push out a little further. Are we going to not just dance and shout and hear the song, but hear the voice of Jesus to know what he's asking of us tonight? I'll tell you this, if you know what he's asking, you can more readily respond. Many times we're like, God, if I just knew what you wanted, I would do it. And that's not true. Can we just be honest? We hear him all the time, and we turn a deaf ear to him all the time. We come to church and hear messages all the time, and we write in our journal like we good Christians, and we never look at it again. See, y'all ain't gonna be, I ain't even gonna ask y'all to be honest, because it's the truth. It's the truth. You have to come with the intention to hear the Lord so that he's able to use you in greater ways than he's ever been able to use you. I thought it was interesting that in verse 3, he asked an owner, and then he sits down on this boat to start teaching. Do you ever listen to hear the kind of voices that are being brought near to you, that are being amplified, and recognize that there is strength and an indicator in proximity? So God sent you, he sent you to Ford City, and he sends you to a woman of freedom. It might be because you're free. Like you got to wrestle with, like sometimes we don't even recognize the kind of voices that God is sending us to be near. Jesus himself sits down on this boat and comes near Simon Peter. It should have been an indicator that Jesus was getting ready to do something with Simon. We sometimes turn a deaf ear to the reality that God is bringing influential voices close. I can tell you this, I've been in a lot of great rooms, and most next great leaders come out of the room of other great leaders. Y'all missing it. Like, you're not here on happenstance. You're not here just to be here. Like, these people that are in this room right now are in this room because there's something that my voice carries that your voice needs to, that your spirit needs to hear. No clout to me. He sent you on purpose with intention. You have to pay attention to the voices that are being brought near to you, even if they're not talking to you directly. You have to look at the access you're being granted, and don't take it for granted. You got to be able to hear what's being brought near to you. Jesus himself is sitting on your boat. He's speaking and teaching. Are you just a bystander that is not allowing this reality of him being near to say anything to you about you? Because what I recognize is, although this was great and he was able to use Simon Peter as a result of this, Simon, as a result of Jesus being on a boat, he gets a revelation that I think really this is the major thing about what we have to be willing to hear, because it's an area that I have faltered in and an area I have seen many other leaders falter in. They get the word, and you saw it, they get the word. Jesus says in verse 4, go, launch out into the deep. He says go, and we're like, Elder D, I know what God told me to do. He told me to go. I'm going. Go, and you stop just for a minute and ask that person that's got this new instruction, and I know what Jesus' will for my life is. Where you going and what you going for? You ever been asked some questions you don't got answers to? The difference between a leader and a good leader. See, good leaders have answers because they don't just listen. They don't just hear God's will. They wait and listen for his way. Because a part of God's will is his way. So if you look at verse 4, it doesn't just show you that God says go. He says go where? He says go out into the deep and do what? Let down your net to catch fish. Get the full essence, not just the will, but the way. You got to fully understand not just what he's called you to do, but how he's called you to do it, because both are part of his will. You have to be willing to stop and take enough time, not to just hear him back here, but to hear him in the middle here. Great and regular are broken in the middle right here. Do you hear me? It is so many people, we start out strong. Oh, I'm listening to God. I'm in my prayer room fasting for 21 days. I know what God said to me, but we don't keep listening. Can you imagine how detrimental it would have been if Abraham didn't keep listening? Could you imagine how detrimental it would have been if Moses wouldn't have kept listening? I started even thinking about Moses when I was talking about this idea of being chosen. And, you know, he's like, God, like, I don't even speak well. And God is like, would you let me use it? It's Jeremiah. I'm too young. And he said, don't say that no more. You go to whoever I send you to and you say what I tell you to say. He'll use the area of inadequacy, your ability to continue to not just see, but hear the Lord calling you to do something is what allows you to go from great to just regular, or regular to great. Amen? We have to keep listening for God to show us not just his will, but his way. The last thing I want you to recognize, and it was in verse 5, it says this: Master Simon said, we worked hard all last night. I don't want us to pass by this. Ain't the point, but hear me. We worked hard all last night. Do you have an aversion to working hard? Are you lazy? Do you procrastinate? Do you just do barely enough? Some of the reason why we're not seeing ourselves lead well is just because we don't want to work hard. Could it have been that it was the faithfulness assignment that attracted Jesus to his boat and not James and John's? I don't know. I'm speculating. But I do know that faithfulness is an attractor. I'm just asking you this simply. Do you have an aversion to working hard? Because I'm telling you, God is drawn to those that are faithful, those that steward well, those that manage what's been placed in their hands well. I was blown away just at the reality that God allowed. We worked hard all last night to be in verse 5. It was good to me. So we're looking at the leaders that can hear. And in verse 5, it says, Master Simon replied, we worked hard all last night, didn't catch a thing. But if you say so, I'll let down my net again. I'll let my net down again. The thing that he calls Jesus after Jesus speaks to him and he's able to hear him gives us every indication of who's going to be ruler in this situation. So many times we will hear the Lord say something and we're like, yeah, but let me hear what mama got to say because mama master. My experience, it just spoke too loud. I hear my experience above the voice of the one that is the great I am, the one that says that he's Alpha and Omega. I will sometimes raise my experience louder than master. You have to be willing to do the work and sometimes try again. I love that even after he is willing and vulnerable, and I champion vulnerability. Jesus is not afraid of our vulnerability. He's not afraid of our transparency. Daddy, I gave my best. I got anybody in the room, like, I gave that marriage all I had. I've given them children everything I knew to do. And it ended up in a rough place. God, I tried to set out and do that business. And look how it ended up. I'm disappointed. It didn't go the way I expected. Daddy, you told me it wouldn't end like that. My question is, will you ever get to verse 6 when it says, and this time? It's a question tonight. It's a question. Do you know that the most people that were inventors, they do the same thing over and over hundreds of times before they get it right once? If they stop short of being willing to try again, you never get to end this time. I wonder what the leader that has just been sitting out there saying, I'm disappointed, God, I can't do it anymore. Will you raise master voice above the experience? Will you hear him speak louder and say, go cast your net again. I got something new I want to do. We never see a new answer if we never give a new yes. So often we are stuck in cycles and in the level that we've been in simply because we won't try again. Maybe it's the 5th time and it wasn't the first. Do you have stick-to-itness, endurance, the willingness to be made to look like a fool? See, many of us won't get out there to look like a fool for the Lord because we got a reputation to uphold. He says, make yourself of no reputation. All I know is Christ and Christ crucified. I lay my life down to do the will of my Father. They mocked Jesus. They beat him and it looked like he was a lie. And he was willing to do it anyway. I wonder, would you be willing to be humiliated for Jesus to fulfill his will through your life? Would you be willing to try again? We talk about this strength in being able to see and his strength in being able to hear. And, you know, we shout and we are excited. And I don't know, maybe it was Jesus that asked them to go out the first time and work hard all night. You know, the Bible, we don't know that. But the reality is we see a different story in the fact that they were able to continue to obey the Lord and do the next instruction. All I'm asking for tonight is, what's the next instruction? If it's try again, try again. If it's to walk away, walk away. If it's to stand back up, stand back up. I want you to see what happens in verse 7 through 11 as a result of being a leader that can see and hear. I see opportunity in the ordinary. I see, God, that you've chosen me and you've chosen this place that is empty and void where your strength can be made perfect in my weakness, not my strength. I hear you, God, asking me to partner with you to do something. I want to go your way. I want to do what you called me to do. In verse 7, it says, a shout for help brought their partners in the other boat. And soon both boats were filled with fish on the verge of sinking. He brings abundance. The third thing that you see with every leader that will choose to see and hear is that it brings about change. Great leaders experience change. They experience elevation. They experience transformation. We don't just do what God tells us to do just to do it. We do it because we trust that if we trust his will and way, it will lead to change. So we see here in verse 7 that a shout from help brought their partners, not just Simon's partner, but they were partnered to do God's will. It brought their partners in the other boat. And soon both boats were filled with fish and on the verge of sinking. It goes on to say, when Simon Peter realized what happened, he fell to his knees before Jesus and said, "Oh Lord, please leave me. I'm such a sinful man." For he was awestruck by the number of fish he had caught, as were the others with him. His partners, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, were also amazed. Jesus replied to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you'll be fishing for people." And as soon as they landed, they left everything and followed Jesus. We see Simon go from a man that has the ability to do a task that is just enough for him to do. You can launch out in this boat, you can obey on your own. But if you keep seeing and hearing me and you launch out into the deep and you're willing to try again and do what I said, there will be so much harvest, so much abundance, so much brought forth as a result of your obedience that it will cause you to have to be okay with needing help. Do I got any leaders in the room that have had a hard time asking for help? Yep. Listen, been there. Struggling, drowning in the weight of trying to take care of kids and be a pastor and do all these things that God called me to do. But the willingness to know that in order to do what God has called me to do, because God is always going to do exceedingly abundantly, I have to be okay with shouting for help. Part of the thing that is limiting us is we won't ask for help. You see Simon go from doing it on his own to partnering with James and John, and we don't sink when we call for help. We don't have to be overwhelmed. It's a choice. Not only does that happen, but as a result of what Jesus does, not only do we see him change from being a solo to a partner, we also see him go from, well, God, I'm on the shoreline, I'm disappointed, I didn't catch anything, to having so much happen as a result of allowing God's obedience to take place in his life that he starts to say, I'm awestruck and I'm amazed at all you've been able to do. And everybody with him has that same perspective. You see, when we have a perspective of gratitude, that perspective of gratitude, just like the perspective of complaint, links on everybody attached to us. They bow and he says, I'm a sinful man and God, get away from me. Like, this was too much. I recognize that with me, I was able to do a little. I was a master of the sea. I'm a fisherman. But with the God that is even over the seas and the winds and waves obey him, I can do more with you. I'm amazed at what you were able to do through my obedience. Anybody ever been there where you're like, God, I did that thing you told me to do, and I am awestruck by what you were able to do through me. We see him go from disappointed to grateful. God always is shifting us and elevating us. Not only does he do that, God trusts him not only to just be a fisher of fish, but now he's elevated to be a fisher of men. I wonder what is on the other side of your obedience. What's the next step of elevation for you? Oh, you're killing it at what you do right now. But what's the greater thing that God is waiting to hand you as a result of your obedience? What I loved most about this story was that that Simon did not just give a yes in the boat where he was comfortable. I'm a fisher. I know I was disappointed, but Master, I'm going to hear your voice above this. Even when he was called to the shoreline and asked to get out of this boat and to become a fisher of men in a place where he had never done anything, it was walking into the unknown. His answer was still yes. My question tonight is, whose answer, known or unknown, is still yes? Who will allow your ability to see the Lord and hear the Lord to transform you into not just a leader, but a great leader? I can't tell you the number of times where I've been on my boat myself and decided, oh, if I just tweak, being able to schedule better, or if I could communicate better, I would be a greater leader. And God has been after this one thing. He said, Jackie, listen to me. If you take time to prioritize and put a boundary around your ability to see and hear me, scheduling and communicating and getting revelation, they're all easy. We always stay at the surface level, like just the stuff we can see, but we never understand why great leaders have revelation. It's because they've been spending time in the face of the Lord to see and hear him. We settle for, great leaders, they look a certain way, so I'm just going to put it on and superficially look like something I am not. My challenge tonight is hear the voice of the Lord speak and show you something that'll really change you. He's not after superficial. He don't send you to dig deep to be after superficial. He wants to take us deeper into the waters we've never gone. He wants us to trust him in ways we never have. He wants to do things through us that we have never seen done, to see purpose in the ordinary. You didn't walk into that hospital room with your grandmother who is fighting for her life for no reason, Pastor Jackie. Y'all, I'm telling you, my 87-year-old grandmother, she was in the fight for her life. The doctors literally said that there was no way she was going to be able to live. She was dealing with sepsis. Literally had given up on my grandmother. We were literally just kind of trying to prepare our hearts to allow her to transition on to be with the Lord. And God told me to go. I didn't just hear him say go. I listened for what was his will when I went. I showed up into that hospital room, and it was something that rose up in me as I looked on the body of my grandmama that said that she would live and not die. I began to declare the word of the Lord because that's what I heard my daddy say. I began to say what he said until I saw what he said. See, the reality is many times we'll go, but we don't know what to do when we get there because we put our blindfolds on and put them headphones back on. I can't tell you how many times I've mounted even this pulpit to preach a word, but I decided once I got here, oh God, I know how you want to do this. I put my blindfolds on and my headphones on, and I'm going to stay in the boat of comfortability. I'm going to stay attached to this iPad. And God said, baby, the place of your greatest power is in flowing and hearing and seeing me. I'm talking to somebody in this room that needs to hear me. You keep cutting off the thing that makes you you. You keep deafening your ear to the thing that makes you you. You are not like those other leaders. You are made to be a godly leader. And godly leaders have to listen and follow to lead. I don't lead you well if I don't follow well. I can't tell you how much better Forward City has been pastored as Pastor Travis and I have gotten a great pastor. We received somebody that we could hear his voice and say, like, you've been through this, and what is this giant that I'm dealing with? And he says, oh, we got to get down on our knees and fast and pray for this one. We gotta tarry and wait right here. Even in Greenville, many of y'all were at my husband's album release. I tell you what he did before he got on stage. He was laid out prostrate before the Lord, listening and hearing the voice of God. It's not in our standing that is strong. It's in our laying it all down to hear the Lord, to see what he's saying. Daddy, what do you say about this? Not what I've experienced. What do you say? What are you leading me to do? This is the posture of strength. You want a great leader? Find one that prays. You want a great leader? I'm not talking about somebody that's going to be able to lead you sometimes. I'm talking about where goodness and mercy follows them all of their days for the rest of your life. Find one that hears and sees the Lord. Time and time again, season after season. They won't be perfect, but they will be yielded. Even when they stray, he will make the crooked places straight. That's what he's after tonight. I want every person that is making a choice. Don't stand up if this is not you. If you want to go from being just a leader to a great leader, I want you to stand. If you are willing to do the work and understand he's not going to force you to do it, I want you to stand. In the posture of surrender, I want our hands up. If that's your posture, it might be to kneel. It might be to walk around this room. I don't know what your posture of surrender is. But I want to hear some people call out to Master. I want to hear some women make a decision that is even in the ordinary, God. I will stop missing you even in my home as my children are crying out for influence. I'll stop missing a family reunion because I'm trying to be out here and getting it and getting that money, and souls in my family are going to hell because I won't rise up and be who God has called me to be. Great leaders, they see their daddy, they hear their daddy, and they follow. They don't just hear to hear, they hear to obey. Daddy, if you say so, whatever you're leading me to do, I'll go. Hey, I pray the message you just watched was really transformative for you. I pray it blessed your life. And I want to stay connected with you, so make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. Send this to a friend if it really touched you and you believe it will be helpful for them. And be sure to follow me at Dr. Jackie Greene on all social media, and drjackiegreene.com has all the latest and greatest, staying up to date with all the, I have devos and just all kinds of stuff that you want to be in on. I love you. See you soon.